Sub-Zero.
When we got there, it tore through our unit in seconds.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Obi from the Master Box Show and I hope you're having an amazing day. Ultimate Eldritch Knight. I was looking for a build that is like a powerful Eldritch Knight that has a great balance of sword and magic. Something like a really strong swordsman that can both swing really hard while dishing out useful spells to its advantage. Unfortunately, most of the builds out there leans into more of the magical side of things while having just the abilities of frontlining, but not until today. I have a build that is the actual magic swordsman that you've been looking for. This build combines the two most powerful classes in the game, dealing nasty physical DPS while using elemental magic to debuff and increase the effectivity of your spells in order to completely dominate the battlefield. Without further ado, I present to you the Ice King. Let's get to it. Alright, here we are now guys in the character creation screen. This is where we will be building the foundation of our Ice King for today. The build is really thematic for one of our origin characters, which is Lizelle, if you want to go with her for your playthrough. But if ever you want to go for a custom character, we'll be starting off with the races. And before I forget, the races that I'll be mentioning are just for optimization. If you don't mind going for the optimized route, you can go any sort of race that you prefer for as long as you're happy with your build. I'll also be using other races just to show you guys that it's pretty viable for any sort of race. The races that I'll be mentioning are just for optimization. So that being said, we are selecting from the Githyanki and the Half Orc. For the Half Orc, we are eyeing on the Relentless Endurance as well as the really powerful race feature, which is Savage Attack. When we deal a critical hit with a melee weapon, we deal an additional extra die of weapon damage. As for the Githyanki, it has some really nice actions such as the Astral Knowledge, which will grant you proficiency in any skill that you choose until long rest, and the race feature of Martial Prodigy. This will grant us proficiency in armors such as light and medium armors, as well as proficiency in short armors, longsword, and greatsword. As for the classes, we'll be starting off with the most powerful mage class in the game, which is the Sorcerer. As for the subclass, we'll be taking Draconic Bloodline. For the Dragon Ancestry, we'll be taking the Draconic Ancestry White. This will provide us with resistances and cold damage, as well as a really nice armor Ragathys that will provide additional cold damage to enemies that will hit us. As for the cantrips, we'll be taking the most important cantrips that we need for the build, which is the Ray of Frost. This is the bread and butter cantrip and spell that we'll be using for the build. This will reduce the enemy's move speed by 3, as well as provide amazing debuffs. And for the other ones, you can just get maybe light, as well as dancing light, or maybe poison spray. For the spells, we'll be taking Ice Knife as early as possible. This will also provide more cold damage to our opponents with the cost of our level 1 spell, and we can also upcast it later on our levels. For the backgrounds, there are two backgrounds that are interesting for the build, starting with the Guild Artisan and the Soldier. Most likely you will be benefiting from the skills of intimidation due to the high charisma that you will be getting later on the build. As for the Guild Artisan, you will be unlocking Insight and Persuasion. Most likely Persuasion will be your thing due to the high charisma of your character. As for the abilities, most likely it will look like this. We will be prioritizing Strength, Constitution, as well as Charisma, especially in the early game. Strength will be responsible for our weapon damage, as well as our strength saving throws, and most likely we will be multi-classing with this build. That's why we will be taking strength as early as this. Charisma is next due to the modifiers of our spell in our sorcerer class, and most likely we will be focusing on the sorcerer later on our levels as well. Finally, for the constitution, in order for us to increase our stamina and physical endurance, as well as our hit points. And for the late game abilities, most likely we'll be respecking because we will be unlocking an item that will increase our constitution to 23, and we'll be dumping that to dexterity. Our priorities are now strength, charisma, and dexterity, and a little bit of intelligence. Level 2 of our character, we'll be introducing our first multi-class of the build, in the form of the most powerful melee class in the game, which is the Fighter. The Fighter provides us with the action Second Wind that can heal us from 2 to 11 with the cost of a bonus action. But the most important thing that we need here is the fighting style for the build, which is the Great Weapon Fighting. When we roll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack with a two-handed melee weapon, the die will be re-rolled once. Level 3 of our character, which is level 2 of our fighter, we just unlock our action, which is the Action Surge, which will basically grant us an extra attack every short rest. Level 4 is the level that will be unlocking one of the most important subclasses for the build, which is the Eldritch Knight. The Eldritch Knight is our might and magic hybrid that utilizes cantrips and spells as well as melee attacks to decimate its enemies. As for the cantrips, we'll be selecting the cantrips such as Blade Ward to provide more resistances in slashing, bludgeoning, piercing damage for 2 turns. For the spells, we'll be taking Chromatic Orb. As for the expanded, I'll be taking any utility spell such as Long Strider or Enhanced Leap. Level 5, still focusing on our fighter class once again, we just gained another spell that we can utilize, but the most important thing that we need here is the feat. This is our first feat of the build, and we'll be taking Great Weapon Master as early as possible. When we land a critical hit or kill a target with a melee attack, we can use another melee weapon attack as a bonus action for that turn, as well as providing us with plus 10 damage. For the spells, you can get any spells that you prefer. I'll just take Magic Armor. Level 6 is we will be unlocking our level 5 fighter that will be getting our class feature, which is our extra attack. Level 7, which is fighter level 6. Most likely you will be around early act 2. You will be unlocking our subclass feature, which is a few spell slots, and our second feat of the build. We'll be taking ability improvement and dumping all of it to our strength. This will grant us 19 strength for this level. Now for level 8 and level 7 for fighter, we'll be unlocking our second most important subclass feature, which is our war magic. After we use a cantrip, we can use our weapon attack using our bonus action. As for the spells, just take any spells that you prefer. I'll just get Melf's Acid Arrow for this level, as well as maybe Arcane Lock just for the utility. Now for level 9, we will now be rounding out our levels to our other class, which is the Sorcerer, and we will be focusing all of our levels to make the Sorcerer as powerful as it can be. For the class passives, we'll be taking the most important Meta Magic Wind spell. This will grant us an additional target for our cantrips. For the other one, you can either take Distance Spell for more spell range. For the spells, we'll be taking False Life just to add more temporary hit points to our arsenal. Level 10 and focusing on our sorcerer class, we'll be taking another set of class passives, which is the really cool Meta Magic Quicken spell. The spell that costs action will cost a bonus action. For the spells, we'll be taking Mystic Step for this level. Level 11, focusing on our sorcerer class, we'll be unlocking a few class features for our Meta Magic charges as well as some spell slots, but the most notable thing here is our final feat of the build, and we'll be rounding out our strength for this level and introducing the athlete. We can add either strength or dexterity by 1 to a maximum of 20, and whenever we are prone, standing up uses significantly less movement, and we can increase our jump distance by 50%. For the spells, we'll just take any spells that you prefer. I'll just take Blindness just for the sake of it. Finally, level 12 of our character and the final level of our sorcerer class, we'll be unlocking the final spell to make our Ice King in the form of the Sleet Storm. This is a level 3 conjuration spell that requires concentration, but the really cool thing here is that it adds icy surfaces every turn for a total of 10 turns. Alright, now it's time for us to talk about the item setup that we will be needing for the build. I will be presenting 2 builds for you guys today. One is for the early game, which is the Act 1 and Act 2 build, and the other one is for the late game, which is the Act 3 build. What's really cool about this build is most of the items that you will be needing is already obtained in Act 1 and Act 2, so most likely you will be really powerful into the coming acts. We're gonna start with the headpiece, which is the Cold Brim Hat. This will provide us with the passive Cold Brim Grim Chill. Once per turn, any condition inflicted on a target also applies 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost. Encrusted with Frost is a debuff that provides disadvantage to dexterity saving throws, as well as when this stacks up into 7 or more, the entity or enemy needs to succeed a Constitution saving throw or take 1 to 4 cold damage and become frozen. Frozen is also a really nice condition that will basically incapacitate enemies for 2 turns. For the armors, we'll be taking the Adamantine Scale Mail. This will provide us with the Magical Plate. All incoming damage is reduced by 1, as well as the Adamantine Backlash. Whenever the enemy hits us, they will be sent reeling for 2 turns, as well as the enemies can't land a critical hit on us. For the gloves, which is one of the most important things that we need for the build, which is the Winter's Clutches. This will provide us with the Winter's Clutches passive. When the wearer deals cold damage, we will be inflicting 2 turns of Encrusted Frost upon the targets. This will go really nicely with a Cold Brim Hat in order for us to stack up around 4 Encrusted with Frost whenever we attack with a cold damage spell or a cold damage weapon. For the boots, we'll be taking the Hoarfrost boots. This will provide us with the passive Hoarfrost balance. You cannot fall prone when traversing in icy terrain. For the amulets, we'll be taking the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation. This will provide us with Elemental Augmentation passive. When one of our cantrips deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, we add our spellcasting modifier to our damage dealt. As for the rings, we'll be taking the Ring of Protection that will add our AC by 1, as well as our saving throw by 1. Finally, we'll be taking my favorite Callous Glow ring, which will provide us with the Callous Glow passive. The wearer deals additional 2 points of damage against creatures that are eliminated. For the weapons, we'll be taking the Halberd of Vigilance. This will provide us with the passive Sentinel weapon. We will gain +1 bonus to our initiative rolls, as well as our advantage to our perception ability checks. And just a note guys, if ever you reach Act 2, I highly advise you take the Drake Throat Glaive as early as possible in order for us to utilize the ability of Draconic Elemental Weapon, for us to imbue our main weapon with elemental damage, which is the Halberd of Vigilance. In order for us to do this, we just need to equip the Drake Throat Glaive, and after that, drop our main weapon to the ground, activate its effect, which is the Draconic Elemental Weapon. Select what element that you prefer, which is the Draconic Elemental Cold. Now it's time for us to talk about the Act 3 build in order for us to make our Ice King as powerful as possible, and we just need a few items to do that. As I mentioned earlier, the build goes online around Act 1 and Act 2, so most likely you will be really powerful by then. We'll be starting with our Helldusk Armor. This is just for increasing our AC as much as possible, and I selected Helldusk Armor because it has one of the highest AC armors in the game, as well as it grants us with Infernal Retribution. When we succeed a saving throw, the caster receives burning for 3 turns, as well as we have resistances in fire damage and cannot be burned, and not to mention the -3 less damage from all sources, as well as the free fly spell. Second is the Helldusk Boots. This will basically grant us steadfast passive that will ignore any effects of difficulty terrain. For the amulets, we'll be taking the Amulet of Greater Health. This is quite important for the build as it will grant us with Constitution score of 23. And finally, for the weapons, obviously we'll be taking the Baldur's Giant Slayer. This will grant us the passive Giant Slayer on hit, double the damage from your strength modifier. This weapon also grants us advantages on attack rolls against large, huge, and gargantuan creatures, as well as the really nice giant form that will grant us the power to increase our damage, as well as a giant form added temporary hit points. Alright, now it's time for us to utilize the power of our Ice King and showcase what it can do. So after a long rest, we'll be utilizing the power of our Armor Ragathis, and we'll be upcasting it to level 4 to add 20 additional cold damage, as well as 20 temporary hit points. We'll be using it level 4. Activated Armor Ragathis. Right after that is, we'll be activating the power of our Drake Throat Glaive, particularly the Elemental Imbuement, and we'll be imbuing the power of the Baldur's Giant Slayer with cold damage. So we'll be dropping Baldur's Giant Slayer, activating the Draconic Elemental Weapon, and selecting Draconic Elemental Cold. Now we just activated Elemental Cold, and the Baldur's Giant Slayer now has an included cold damage to its arsenal. We'll be equipping it here. Right after that is, if you want to really go fancy, I highly advise going with the Elixir of Bloodlust. Whenever you kill a foe, you will be gaining 5 temporary hit points and an additional action until long rest. Now we just activated it. We are now basically ready to fight with our Ice King. Right after that is we'll be activating our Giant Form, and after that is we'll be activating Sleet Storm to prep the battlefield to our favor. Now I'll be showcasing to you guys the power of our meta magic, particularly the meta magic twin spell to add additional targets for our cantrip. That's gonna be our Ray of Frost to provide the frost debuffs as early as we can. You will be attacking these targets. Now we just started a battle using our Ice King. So for this turn, the gist of the build is just attack the enemies as much as we can, and hopefully we can freeze them with the Encrusted of Frost. We will be attacking our enemies as much as possible so that we can activate the Frost debuff. Miss. Good attack. 6 stacks. We now have dazed our enemy. And we can move to another target, ending our turn. Using our Ice King once again, we will be finishing this enemy here. That is dead. Activated Elixir of Bloodlust, and we'll be utilizing the power of the Great Weapon Master. Attacking once again. Enemy's dead. Finishing the enemy here. And finishing up here. Now we can end our turn. We just prone another enemy here. This is because of the Sleet Storm AoE effect. So we'll just try to eliminate this enemy here. There's 4 stacks of Encrusted of Frost, 6 stacks of Frost, and we can just move away, ending our turn. We proned again the enemy. We'll just finish this enemy off. Dead. Moving to another target.
Hope your soul is in good hands.
4 stacks of Frost. It's dead. Enemy again prone. Now it's time for our Ice King once again. And we'll try to deal damage to these enemies here. So just attack them here. Just 4 stacks of Frost. Activated this. 6 stacks of Frost. We're gonna be moving to another location so that our enemies chase us. Shield. Prone another target. And we'll try to freeze this enemy here. Hopefully. Miss. Now the enemy is frozen. As you see here, bosses are most likely the one to get frozen because they have higher HP pool. The more the battle prolongs, they will most likely be frozen. Now this enemy is incapacitated and it will be unable to attack or do anything. So we can just move away and ending our turn. Sleet Storm just finished this effect, but most likely we can use our cleave here just to attack and provide more damage to our enemies. 2 stacks. Provide more stacks. 4 stacks. Move to reposition. And he's no longer frozen. Repositioning to another area. Ending our turn. Two enemies got prone, and we'll just finish up this opponent here. Enemy's dead. We'll just move. Can't reach the enemy. We'll be using the Ray of Frost just to deal more damage and ice stacks. Now we'll be moving to this target here. Most likely we'll be finishing up this opponent here. Alright guys, thank you for watching the build. I hope you guys enjoy the power of the Ice King. It is the ultimate magical swordsman build using the power of Frost. Gonna be really powerful with your team, especially if you match this with the same element. It is also really decent solo as well as for your honor mode play, and provide as much value as it can for your party members. Anyway, would love to know about your thoughts as well as your comments and clarifications in the comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. It really lets me know that you guys are enjoying the builds. Shoutouts for all the people who subscribe and keep supporting the channel. I really appreciate you guys for all the amazing support. And for all the people who haven't subscribed yet, thank you for watching my videos, and I hope I earn your subscriptions in the future. But if I earn it today, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to support me directly, there's the join button down below and be part of our D20 Rollers Club. Join our Discord with the guys. If you have any questions for me directly, you can also reach me from there. I also have Patreon, by the way, if you want to go that route. Finally, that's it for me. Hope to see you soon on the next Master Book Show. Peace out. Bye guys.